I never imagined the day my own family would celebrate my loss. It wasn't loud. There was no shouting, no arguments, just smiles. The polite kind, the kind people wear when they think they've finally won. The room smelled like coffee and old furniture. My mother sat at the head of the table, hands folded, already rehearsing sympathy. My brother leaned back in his chair, confident, relaxed. My aunt whispered to my cousin, not quite enough quietly. "She'll be fine," she said. "She always lands on her feet." What they meant was, I didn't matter. My name is Elena, and for most of my life, my family has believed one simple thing about me: that I married well, but thought poorly. They said I was lucky to marry a man like Thomas, quiet, older, successful. What they never said out loud, but always implied, was that I married him for his money. They never asked how we met. They never asked what we talked about. They never asked what kind of man he was when no one was watching. They just decided. And I let them. Because correcting them would have taken energy I didn't have at the time. Because grief makes you quiet. Because love doesn't need defending. Thomas passed away 6 months ago. Cancer doesn't care how kind you are. It doesn't care how patient. It arrives, it takes, and it leaves silence behind. At the funeral, my family cried louder than I did. Not for him, for the life they assumed I'd lost. "I don't know how you'll manage now," my mother said, gripping my hands tightly. My brother added, "We'll help you figure things out." What he meant was, "You're going to need us now." I nodded. I thanked them. I said very little. That's what I'd always done. The truth was, my family had never known how my life worked. They just filled in the blanks with whatever made sense to them. To them, I was the emotional one, the soft one, the one who needed protection. Thomas, in their minds, had been the provider, the brain, the structure. They never noticed that I handled the finances, that I reviewed contracts for fun, that Thomas trusted my judgment more than his own. They never noticed because they never looked. So when the lawyer called and asked us all to come in for the reading of the will, they treated it like a formality. My brother wore his confident smile, my aunt dressed like she was attending a networking event. My mother kept patting my arm, whispering, "Whatever happens, we'll get through it." The lawyer cleared his throat and began. At first, it was boring. Charitable donations, personal items, small bequests. Then he paused and said my name, Elena Carter. Every head turned toward me. I felt the familiar tightening in my chest, that old reflex to shrink, to brace. The primary executor of the estate and sole decision-maker of all liquid and non-liquid assets. My brother frowned. The lawyer went on. The entirety of the business portfolio, property holdings, and accounts have been placed under her control. Silence settled over the room. Not explosive, not dramatic. Heavy. My mother blinked rapidly. That can't be right," she said softly. My aunt leaned forward. "Isn't that a mistake?" The lawyer didn't look up. "No." My brother finally laughed, a short, uncomfortable sound. "You mean temporarily, right? Until things are sorted." The lawyer adjusted his glasses. "No, permanently." The air changed. I felt it the same way you feel a storm shift direction. Thomas hadn't left me money. He had left me responsibility, authority, control. My brother's smile vanished. My aunt sat back, suddenly distant. My mother stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. The lawyer continued, voice calm. Mr. Carter was very specific. He stated that Mrs. Carter had been managing these matters alongside him for years. Alongside. Not behind, not dependent. Equal. That's when my brother turned to me. "You knew about this?" he asked. I met his eyes. "Yes." "You didn't think to tell us?" I tilted my head slightly. "You never asked." That landed harder than anything else that day. The meeting ended quietly. No arguments, no accusations, just stunned politeness. In the hallway, my mother pulled me aside. "Elena," she whispered, "why didn't you say anything before?" I looked at her then. Really looked. "Because every time I tried to explain my life, you told me not to worry so much." Her mouth opened, then closed. In the days that followed, the messages started. Advice, suggestions, thinly disguised concern. "You should hire someone. Are you sure you're comfortable handling this? Maybe it's time to let family help." What they were really saying was, "Give it to us." I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I just kept doing what I'd always done. Working, deciding, building. 3 weeks later, I hosted a small dinner. Nothing fancy, just enough to bring everyone together again. They arrived cautiously this time. No jokes, no assumptions. Halfway through the meal, my brother cleared his throat. "I didn't realize," he said, "how capable you were." I smiled politely. I've always been capable. They just hadn't noticed. The truth is, silence can be a shield, but it can also be a test. And the people who only value you once you're undeniable were never really seeing you before to begin with. If you've ever been underestimated by the people closest to you, this isn't your sign to prove them wrong. It's your reminder that you don't owe anyone the full explanation of your strength. Sometimes the truth speaks loudest when it finally doesn't need permission.